people who were filmed in corporate training videos, how cringy was the experience, and how seriously did you expect people watching the final production to take you? I wasn't in the video. I was kicked out of my own server room so they could get a good looking dude from sales to pretend to be doing stuff on a server in Iraq. Same, except it was my classroom. They told me they wanted to use it because it had good light and nice decorations. They brought in the kids and another staff member and kicked me out for the afternoon. I couldn't go home, but all my work was in my room, so I used an empty classroom and slept on a counter. It was some balls. I created an entire series of videos on how to use my company software. I left the company and apparently after about a year someone in training found my video and started using them to train new people. I came back to the company 3 years later and I am now that guy from the video. It's made me a mini celebrity internally and it's kinda cool. I did poke fun at the VP when I reminded him my videos are nearly a decade old and completely relevant and that's maybe not a good thing. I did poke fun at the VP when I reminded him my videos are nearly a decade old and completely relevant and that's maybe not a good thing. You're fired. Something I can finally answer. At 17 I worked a high school job at Barnes & Noble, and one day I skipped school and went in to get my check, and the COO was touring our store. My store manager introduced me after giving me a shoulder to be in school RN glare. I recognized him as the happy customer from one of our training videos and gave him crap for ruining the magic. A week or so later I get news that he enjoyed meeting me and had asked for my participation in the new manager's training video. So I took my first business trip to Newark, had the whole driver with a card thing at the airport, so cool as a teenager, and starred in the training video. I was known for selling a ton of memberships, loyalty programs being huge in retail, so that was my portion. Wasn't really cringy, fun experience, but I was definitely the only store employee. Everyone was mostly regional managers and above, the only person of color, and the only person under 40. So when I got the DVD at my store it was a jarring juxtaposition going from old white person to old white person. And all of a sudden there's this bro-eye, pigmented teenager with long hair and a skunk streak talking about how to sell memberships while seriously overutilizing the words dude and like. 10/10 would do again. Ha, that's amazing. I want to watch it now, but totally respect if you don't feel comfortable uploading it, if you even still have the DVD and a way to upload the video. Not me, but my husband. He was filmed for an internet installation video. I didn't know about it until his work buddy called him by a nickname. He is now known at work as Hollywood. Been there. I even wrote out my text for doing the voiceover for where it shows the screen and recorded them. Then my boss got lazy and never put the video together. From the film crew side, I can say that everyone brings their A game because of professionalism. Corporations will invest good money into media like corporate training videos. Sadly you are just stuck with a narrative and some suits telling you what they want. You do your best to give them what they want. It's a money grab on your end. Corporate work, but you are still a professional. I've known a few actors, and yeah, they are professionals. These aren't the crowning achievements on their resume, but they pay the bills. Important, and they approach them as a job to do, and do well. Also, in my area, it was also a networking opportunity. The director of this cheesy corporate film might be directing a play later on that would be something noteworthy on a resume. The cringe was actually requested by the director. I was an assistant manager at the hotel that was picked to film a new hire video series at. All I had to do was my job, pretend to answer the phone, check the actress and etc. Apparently my acting skills were too good as the director remarked that it looked like I was actually on the phone and he wanted more. Camp. I had to figure out how to act like I was on the phone and ignoring the camera, while also making it obvious I was aware of the camera and my mannerisms needed to be more animated to keep viewers engaged. Just a story, but I had to watch a training video on forklift safety at my last job. I'm lucky nobody was in the room because I lost it laughing. The company had decided to put the song Bring Me to Life by Evanescence over clips of forklift accidents. It was the most 2007 thing I've ever seen. We were filmed doing a little song and dance number on Pharrell Williams' Happy. This was then played at the beginning of each workday, and the workers were also put to do the song and dance thing to boost their morale and have a happy day while working. There were some people who refused to do this, but they were fired. The firings will continue until morale improves. Not a training video, but I was in a commercial for a housing company I was working for. The GM was walking the director through the office when he points to me and shouts perfect. At first I was stoked because I get a day off work, free food, and I would get to keep the suit they dressed me in. But when I got to the set I discovered what I was perfect for was to play an evil bank manager. In the end the company was forced to pull the commercial because it contained promises they couldn't keep, so hardly anyone saw it, but yeah, they were looking for horrible evil people and they picked me. I was filmed for an ad for our nice little church, chatting after the service. It looks like I'm really wholesome and enthusiastic. I was actually recounting how my workplace had a fire drill and I was in charge of evacuating my building and some bee refused to leave, so I reported her and she can get fined for that. Big arm waving. Probably swearing a bit. Glorying in her ultimate defeat. But I look so sweet and happy. Come worship with us. LOL. One of my buddies works in HR and since he has a great voice they had him do the voice recording for one of the annual managers training. Then he had to become a manager and take the training every year that he did the voice for. Frick this butthole. I mean, I know he doesn't know what he's talking about. My dad, 53, was asked to do a Fortnite dance for a video celebrating a 1-year birthday for the new hospital he works at. In a way, going to the hospital is like a battle royale. I'm in a handful of training videos for a semi-major chain restaurant that I currently work at. Now I'm by no means an actor, but the production was very professional. They hired a legitimate film crew to shoot everything. I only ended up with like 2 different lines after declining to be the main role in the videos, but overall I thought it turned out very well made and not at all cringe inducing like other workplace training videos I have had to watch. Actually pretty fun. You can really ham it up knowing it's for private use only and the client usually doesn't really care so long as the message is getting across. An easy way to make a couple $100 in a few hours time. Yep, I once volunteered for a few of these along with some of my coworkers. We got to goof around, especially in the portions where we acted without sound, get into character, and generally had a great time. It was way more fun than sitting at our computers pretending to work like we did most of the time at that lousy job. No extra pay, but it was during work hours anyway. I'm answering on behalf of my dad who spent 3 hours filming for 10 seconds of him singing AC/DC. He loved every moment of it and didn't expect to become a mini celebrity at his job site. He pretends he isn't enjoying it. I was in one for Intel where I rode a motorcycle, stopped, and pulled out a small laptop and used it. Never got to see it cause it was for employees only. Anyone see one of those with a tiny brunette girl on a Honda 1000 Repsol? No, but now I want to. Not hugely distributed, but I'm a scientist in the hospital's lab and got asked to be the guy in the what not to do when moving bodies in the mortuary training video, so all the new porters get to see a video of me brutalizing a training dummy and then trying not to laugh for 5 minutes. I honestly can't expect them to take it any more seriously than I did. I showed up to my job as a cashier one morning and my boss asked me and every other cashier to be in a training video for BC Lotto. We all said no. He offered me $100 and I said yes. I pray to God I never see it and try not to think of it. I took a bus for an hour and a half to work at the time and I usually smoked a joint on my walk from my home to the bus and I was definitely still slightly stoned and playing it off as morning face while filming. I live in BC and worked in retail in uni, so yeah. Was doing a safety video for a local lab in a secure building. All internal doors were alarmed if open for more than 20 seconds, which made load in and out difficult. We were shooting a scene about not standing on boxes in the copier room and the VP walks in to check on us and asks where the camera and cinematographer is. We pointed up. He used the boxes to climb into the ceiling. I did one for Gateway years ago. I worked at one of the Gateway stores and they came in to film us talking about this educational software suite we were selling. They asked me how does it feel to sell this package to a new family. I was being a smart butt and answered magical in a somewhat overly exaggerated sarcastic tone. They kept it in the final cut. I was in a series of videos that companies used for sexual harassment training. I was the creep. Those videos were used by many companies for many years. I've been recognized by random people. I was also the fake jewelry trainer in the entire Cash America porn series of videos. If you worked at Cap in the 90s and zeros, can I get a what's up? I can't believe I can actually answer this to some extent. So I went to a local tech college for video production, and one of the classes was all about corporate videos. I took the class myself, and was also a TAFE for 2 years and helped the other students. The second half of the semester was just making a video for a client, which were almost always local companies that donated a bit of money to the program in exchange for some training videos. The actors were mostly just students in the program who drew the short straw because they looked the part, though acting was one of the easiest roles. And occasionally we filmed actual employees when we had to show something specific. It wasn't really that cringy because when you were on camera because everyone knew what they were doing, and you just had to follow some simple directions. There was no need to worry about how you looked because that was the director's job. The cringy parts of the process only came about when working with employees or a manager. Most of the time the employees didn't want to be involved, or were really camera shy. We would tell them not to worry about what we're doing and just concentrate on their job. But it's hard to get people to focus when they've got lights and a camera in their face. That's why most shots with actual employees just show their hands doing something, or were shot from an angle that didn't show their face. Shooting a manager or whatnot doing an introduction or the like was way worse. Anyone involved with film can tell you that working with amateurs is a major pain in the butt, and that's just compounded when they're cocky because they are also the client. We'd have to constantly give them the same instructions over and over again while also being polite and reassuring them that we know what we're doing. But can you please speak up a bit? Talk a little slower, please. Look at me, not the camera. Yes, we do have to set up lights. No, we can't just use the natural lighting. This won't take long, I promise. A lot of that kind of stuff happened. As for how seriously did we expect people to watch it, we didn't really care. We'd edit a version, show the instructor, go back and re-edit it, and repeat until he gave the okay and sent it to the client. If the clients ever complained, I never heard about it. There was one time where a group had to shoot a promo video for a law office, and it was a total disaster, but that's a different story. TLDR, it was only cringy when working with amateurs, and none of us really cared what the people who watched it thought. Wasn't that bad. Mostly just reading an introduction and then explaining what my unit did. It was mostly rather dry. Even rewatching it wasn't that bad. I just felt I looked a little unnatural because I don't normally smile all the time like that. Also my glasses looked crooked and I couldn't focus on anything else. Ugh. I've done a retired Greyhound farm, a Golden Circle commercial and a multiplication rap video for primary school. Was the son of a cameraman for a film company that used all the staff kids for the projects. Never paid but never humiliated. The worst was being filmed constantly eating tinned fruit for a commercial, then having them go, okay, we need a shot of everybody in the pool. Then trying to tread water for about 20 minutes with a belly full of pineapple. Camera crew caught the end of a long, but nice, conversation with a client. Can you do all of that again? How am I supposed to do that? Just pretend. Frick my life. This post just reminded me that I'm on customer servicing for Spencer's Gifts buying a dildo. It was awkward AF and I laughed the entire time while my manager took the photos to submit to corporate. LOL. Plot twist. The photos were for the manager's personal use. Dude, I did an internal project management training program and the associated group exercise was to produce and act in a 10-minute training video related to project management activities, which future trainees should watch. All because someone in the company decided training videos are the hottest crap. Because YouTube, you know. I mean, producing the content was no big deal, but the acting was horrible. Let's say there's a pretty good reason why I became an engineer and not an actor or anchorman. My acting is so incredibly bad and cringy to watch, though my team partner did okay. A couple of weeks ago my company sent me the waiver to sign so they're allowed to use the video. I'll let that email in my inbox until they ask about it. Filmed in one at my everyday job. Knew it would be cringeworthy. Didn't know it would be reused in a primetime ad. The experience was one of severe embarrassment at first, followed by secret enjoyment every time a regular would tell me they saw me on TV. I guess it was my 15 minutes. Not exactly what you're looking for, but in college I acted in a video series for the college on stuff like parking passes, getting your books, info about the library, etc. It was fun. It was all done as a parody of old Charlie Chaplin films. I was Charlie and basically just causing crap while other people in the videos provided the information. My best friend was behind the camera and one of the professors, who directed plays professionally and only taught part-time, was the director, so I think it turned out better than most. Oh no. I can't believe I have an answer for this one. I was in the training department when I worked at Amway Corp, not selling, and I had to do so many of these videos and pictures. Mind you, I was deaf, not a model or an actress. They were just trying to cut back expenses and I was new there, so I didn't know you could refuse to do those kinds of things, so I kinda went with it and they took advantage of that. But the wardrobe was the worst part because you had to be dressed matching the institutional colors, green, red and blue, and obviously you had to bring your own clothes. One time I brought some shirts and dresses but they didn't like them, so they made me wear a dress that was so hideous. It still haunts my dreams when I think about it. The worst part is that video, and others, are still on YouTube. Oh my god, I was there for 3 years 5 years ago. You removed some dark feelings. I filmed for 2 companies. Let's say a.com, a mail order site, and A-Express, a mailing company. They tell a lot of lies during most of the videos in order to keep the newcomers from leaving. Like getting overtime hours, overtime payment. Steps 1-5 is actually 4-3-5 while 1 and 2 were omitted. You will get operations incentives once you've been deemed a reliable worker, but you won't actually be deemed. Corporate don't give 2 shoots, and their methods of training are mostly outdated. People who were filmed in corporate training videos. How cringy was the experience, and how seriously did you expect people watching the final production to take you? My bit ended up on the cutting room floor, as it contained unscripted dialogue, containing suggestions on how operations could be improved. We were having corporate come down to our plant, and to avoid filming, our supervisor suggested we have Hawaiian shirt day. We never have one prior to this. Of course, those of us, including him, that wore a Hawaiian shirt to work were not included in the cringy corporate video. I was only filmed fueling airplanes for background footage when they were explaining about safety, so I didn't have to do anything other than my normal job. One of my coworkers, one of the absolute worst when it came to cutting corners and blowing off safety regulations, was filmed for several of the safety portions of the video, the up-close procedural parts. I sat in the break room and watched them film 2 of my duty managers and those staged conversations. What was bad is that one of the duty managers was a pretty decent actor and looked convincing while having a casual conversation about safety procedures. But our ops chief kept telling him to look at the camera and address the audience while he was having the conversation and enunciate his words more, turning it into the usual cringy mess you expect in those videos. The people writing and directing the video were not involved in my profession, and clearly had no idea how the job actually worked. They recorded us doing stuff that we would never do, or was straight up wrong. All I could think was, the people who end up watching this video are gonna think I'm a clueless actor. This is odd. I've made a short appearance in one for my hotel about safety and cleaning up spills. I know how to take a fall and make it look good, bad, so I got to be the guy that walks into a room and slips on the water on the floor. The video itself was cringy, but at least my fall looked great. Crashed into tables and everything on my way down. Oh, I got a good one. I worked for a major sports clothing and shoes manufacturer, and we had some training videos filmed for store employees. There were 2 actors, a guy and a girl. I got to pick their clothes, as long as I got a certain size. So cool, whatever. The guy actor was really weird and cringy. He'd run in place and do push-ups with his shirt off and between takes. His smile was exaggerated and creepy. I felt really uncomfortable around him. The girl was cool and somehow made it work with Mr. Cringe. She even kept her cool when he went in for a hug. The topic was how to handle theft, and while a sexy topic, it got old fast, standing around, watching them film. So I took off. I returned at the end of the shoot and asked if I could keep the girls' clothes since we couldn't return them. My boss was like, sure, why not? And I got 5 outfits of sweet gear. I heard later from store guys that they made fun of the guy, but liked the girl, but it was still boring as frick. Surprise. I work for the largest company of its type in the South. We make our own training videos. It was an absolutely blast. Took hours and hours, but we had fun, laughed, actually bonded some, and made awesome videos that truly showed exactly what they needed to without being lame. Our new employees seem to enjoy them, but still of course doze off during the ton of videos. My first job out of college was at a place that made sales training type videos, but we also had a long-term deal with medical training publication. For whatever reason I played the part of the patient for a video that had a nurse assisting in a full body assessment, basically an annual physical. I'm told that to this day, 25 years later, the series is still in rotation in some nursing programs where unsuspecting students get to see Ulrithibaka in full naked glory, turning my head to cough on cue. I remember shooting the thing and the director telling the nurse to next palpate the shaft, then hold the gland to gently compress his. She and I just looked at each other and nearly died laughing. One summer I got stuck in summer school because I fricked off in math too much in 7th grade. Or middle school had just been built like 6 months before and was state of the art with computers in both the library and the office. Apple Computer did a in-house video using us summer school losers as extras. Instead of doing 2nd grade level multiplication and division crap all day, we were forced to pretend to be let out of class and talk in the halls over and over for 4 hours. Take after take. The first 3 times were kinda fun, but after the first hour it was just crappy. My comment after watching video, can you imagine how annoying it was to make that co-worker who was there? I didn't have to imagine. I am a very heavily tattooed girl with my lobes stretched at an inch. A medical lab I used to work for was making a training video about company values, and a group of us were asked to pretty much pick out of a hat what dumb catchphrase we would say into the camera. I don't remember the phrase I got exactly, but it was something about always acting conservatively, which I don't think makes much impact coming from me, but sure. The dialogue was god awful, but the director and camera guys were awesome and professional. I kept telling them that no one talks like that, but we couldn't rewrite it. It was apparently written by a higher up, so it wasn't really cringy, just super hard to memorize. Remember having to recite the preamble in school? It felt like that. Pay was freaking amazing, though. It's like $200 an hour. I was part of a 4-man crew for making these how to study for college videos across my province. As we were the ones filming, writing, acting, editing and all of them, we knew exactly how cringy they would be ahead of time. Which actually made it more fun than anything. If people watching it thought we were serious in any way, they shouldn't have been accepted into the college. I was working as a CAD designer in R&D of this company. Since I used Operate the robotic arm too, they gave me the worker's uniform and filmed me controlling the robot, and since now they can't show the same person following design on computer, they sat someone from accounts on my desk to show design department. I cringe to this day thinking about this. Nah, man. You did just fine. You enunciated, displayed confidence, and projected authority. Credit is due. You were at least the least weird feeling of the adult selected to appear in the video. Well done. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.